I'm making this recording. I'm eating some caramel candy. Very chewy. I don't know. Very juicy. Now, for the past 10 years, me and my wife have been harassed all day long by the intelligence community. I don't know. We haven't done anything wrong. No crimes. We don't plan to commit crimes. Two innocent victims. So, apparently these folks think we know something. We don't know. I mean, I'm considered to be crazy, right? Danger to everybody. I mean, I've never been in a fist fight since I was 12 years old, and you can search the earth, and you're not going to find anybody that's been threatened by me. I haven't threatened, and I don't make threats and get in arguments or anything. I don't make displays of anger that are threatening to others. I do nothing of the kind. You won't find a single person who can witness against me on that. Now, if I'm some kind of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right, I'd be showing those unpredictable evils that claim to be part of my character, right, to my wife, wouldn't I? At least. My wife is a nearly helpless person. She's profoundly deaf and she can't talk either. And she's sitting right next to me. She doesn't know I'm making this recording. She's profoundly deaf. There she is. Talk to my wife, okay, and ask her if she's in any way afraid or distrustful of me, if I've ever threatened or been violent with her in any way, if I've even thrown things around her in anger to threaten her. You're going to get the answer that I have not. Now, over the course of our marriage, especially early on when we were under immense pressures, I was unable to get work. I wasn't able to find a place to live because I was considered to be crazy. No one would rent to me. No one would hire me. We were under immense pressures when we first got married. Well, at that time, I went to get so-called, quote, help, unquote, for her from people in what I call the mental prison system of the United States, okay? I didn't call it that then. I do now. Now, one of these places I went to, the psychiatrist, I'm going to use the term in this case. Normally I would say mental prison guard, but let's say psychiatrist, use society's term. Was he? He was a guy from the very school I went to as an outstanding student. I'm going to speak for myself. I was an outstanding student academically and athletically, both. Okay? And he knew that I was at that school, and I was actually a student in a study hall that he proctored when I was in the 7th grade and was number 1 in my class during the first marking period there. The grades were posted right outside that study hall on a bulletin board where he was the proctor and he took roll. Now, I think he was 2 years older than I was. He was the psychiatrist in charge at St. Elizabeth's Hospital, where I took my wife to get, quote, help, unquote, from the deaf program there for deaf people that he was apparently in charge of. At least he seemed to be in charge of it, okay? I take her in there, and what does she tells me is happening to her there? She's being grilled by him and his staff on whether I'm being abusive to her. I'm taking her there for, quote, help, quote, unquote, help, right? And they are questioning her as to whether I'm a criminally bizarre, hurtful, threatening, dangerous person. And what's she telling them? This is the nicest man I've ever met in my life. And she's telling him things like that. They're not believing her. Did she continue to go? She didn't want to go there. On her own. I didn't have to convince her. In fact, I was appalled to hear these things. I'm taking you there to get the so-called help, and this is the response we're getting. Now, this is not the only place in the mental prison system that responded that way to me, okay? Later, maybe 10 years into our marriage, maybe more, my wife wants to adopt a child, so we become part of we apply to become part of an adoption agency, okay? And what do they do there? They question us in separate rooms like we're two criminals being interrogated to see if our stories match up. And once again, these folks are just tearing into my wife with question after question about my abusiveness and this and that and the other. Where's it coming from? I don't know. I was never abusive to them or to that psychiatrist. I went there with the best of motives to get this thing called help, okay? And that was the response we got there. And by the way, we had plenty of money saved in our bank account, enough money to later pay our entire son's education in cash. He went to a very fancy private school, and we paid in cash for his entire college education in cash, no loans. And this adoption agency was telling us that we fully qualified to adopt, and no one would. At that time, adoption was going to come from one of the Asian countries if you wanted an Asian child, right? My wife is Asian, so we chose to have an Asian adopted child, and these countries would not allow us to adopt. Why? Well, why did those places subject us to like criminal interrogation? Well, at that time, the mental prison system had been telling me, tell everybody that you're what you are, right? I'm somebody who was involuntarily committed as a court hearing held several days later decided to have been reasonable because that hearing pronounced that I was a certified paranoid schizophrenic, meaning I had one of those very serious mental diseases, and I had it bad to be certified like that. That just doesn't happen. And so I guess it was on computers that was true about me. Or, like I say, at the time, I told people the way the mental prisoner guards told me to do. They said, tell people that you are this, tell them. And so I was telling everybody what I had been told I was. And that was the response I was getting. Now, I'm shutting down in anger and whatever emotions are shutting me down. So I have to put this on pause a second. I'm saying if I was this threatening, dangerous person, there must be some evidence somewhere that this is true. Ask our son who lived with us if that is true about me. You'll find he will answer it is absolutely untrue. And here's my wife peacefully by my side. I didn't coach her to be here. She has absolutely no fear of me because I am not someone who inspires fear. I inspire trust, love, and the rest of it the way any virtuous person would. So, I am making this recording on my own behalf at the life of suffering I've endured by false accusations and by liars in the United States of America that has wrecked my life with lies of this kind and with the entire fraudulent farce that it squashed me with, nearly killed me when I was 28, and I've had to live in the wrecked life ever since. And so I'm making this note just out of the blue in my own defense. Today is the 4th of March, 2026, and the time is 3:25 p.m.